Trends, they come and they go, but in the bookish world, some of them just stick and end up staying long past their welcome. And this means it's on us, readers, authors, and book lovers alike, to step in and say, enough is enough. So today, in this video, as both a reader and an aspiring author, I'm going through 11 book trends that we seriously need to leave behind in 2025. And make sure to stick around until the end because I've got a bonus trend that we genuinely need to let go of. Welcome to the channel and podcast where I ramble about stories, mostly in books and occasionally in music and movies. If you're interested in discussing these things, then make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. Before we start, remember these are just my opinions, and that's all they are. Now, let's get into it. So the first trend we need to leave in 2025 is authors publishing new books in hardcover before paperback. My only question to this is, why? I'm pretty sure it used to be the other way around. Paperback first, then hardcover later. Don't get me wrong, I love reading hardcovers. I know that might be an unpopular opinion, but I like that they don't get worn out as quickly. Still, if an author or publishing house wants to release a hardcover immediately, then at least make both versions available at the same time. That way readers don't have to wait to read a new release from a favorite author just because the paperback isn't out yet. They can choose whichever version they want and get it. The next trend I want to talk about honestly makes me a little sad because I feel like it says a lot about the state of the reading culture right now. And that's not reading a book if it doesn't have spice. Listen, I'm not judging anyone's preferences. Everyone has their own taste, and it definitely doesn't make you less of a reader if you enjoy books with spice. But the only thing I want to ask when someone says that they refuse to read a book if it doesn't have spice is, do you know how many amazing books with no spice you're missing out on? There are so many stories with no explicit scenes that still manage to capture romance beautifully. Sometimes, in my opinion, even better than books that are almost entirely focused on spice. And the part that worries me is how this mindset has started to shape how we see books overall. It's like we've started reducing entire stories, ones where authors might be trying to explore deeper messages, down to a single question, and that is, does it have spice? So I really think we'd all benefit from diversifying our reading taste a little bit. We should all challenge ourselves to read beyond our usual genres or comfort zones. For me, for example, I love romantasy, but I know it's not going anywhere. I can always pick up a book in that genre whenever I'd like. So with that awareness, I can go pick up other kinds of stories that spark my curiosity, and maybe I'll discover a new kind of story I didn't expect to enjoy. In the end, this trend doesn't just limit authors, it limits us as readers and might come in the way of us discovering new favorite reads. And only for that reason, I'm saying that maybe we should leave it in 2025. The next trend is the trend of authors writing too many tropes and very little plot. There, I said it. I feel like there's something happening lately, especially with books on BookTok, where it seems like authors are writing their stories with a checklist of tropes they want to include. And while I understand why they do that, because it makes the book more appealing to the right audience and therefore more successful, it often ends up making the book feel like a cocktail of tropes rather than an actual well-developed story. I just think choosing one or two central tropes and focusing more on building an engaging, interesting narrative would make for such a stronger book. And the good thing about this is that everyone ends up satisfied in this case, the readers and the authors. Before I talk about this next trend, let me give you a bit of backstory. For everyone who doesn't know, last year it became widely known that some readers skim read their books or skim through books. They don't read every descriptive section and instead skip straight to the dialogue. This turned into a trend of people saying that they skip paragraphs. And I feel like it's a trend we can definitely do without in 2025. Now, I'm not an authority on how people should enjoy their hobbies. Reading is a hobby after all, and we can do it however each of us likes doing it. Personally, I feel like the beauty of writing is in those descriptive paragraphs. They set the scene, the mood, and let you fully feel what the protagonist is going through. Even dialogue is richer when it's supported by those little details. Hand gesture, a certain look, or a subtle thought that adds so much depth to the story. For that reason, I feel like skipping paragraphs makes readers miss out on so much of the story's richness. And again, I really think we can leave this trend behind in 2025. But still, at the end of the day, I will not be telling you what to do and what not to do and how to read and how not to read. You can read however you like. Now, the next trend kind of annoys me, to be honest. And I know a lot of you might like this one, but it's Taylor Swift lyrics as book titles. Listen, I get it, it's cute. I've liked Taylor growing up, so I know how beautiful and relatable her lyrics can be. But for some reason, it feels kind of icky to me when authors do this. I don't know if icky is the right word. It feels a little bit odd to me when authors do this. And this is not me criticizing them at all. If anything, I think it's a great marketing strategy on their part. But for me, it takes away from the story the book is trying to tell, because it feels less like the author's own and more tied to the Swiftie community. And it takes me a little bit out of the story. So yeah, maybe we could have more unique titles next year. I don't know, but this is just my opinion. Now, this next trend, you guys, we really need to leave behind in 2025. It's books within the same genre, all having the same aesthetics for their covers. And I feel like the genres most guilty of this are romance, romantasy, and fantasy. It feels like we've lost the art of a really great, unique book cover design. And in this case, this is also a marketing strategy. So readers instantly know what they're getting. But at this point, it's overdone. Whenever I look at a romantasy book and it has a cover that looks almost identical to others, I don't feel excited to pick it up anymore. In some ways, I feel like I'm just going to read the same story. I need book covers that call to me and pique my curiosity. And the same goes for romance and fantasy. So let's change it up, and please leave this trend behind. The next trend we need to let go of and leave behind in 2025 is the morally gray MMC and the flawless girl boss FMC paired together in books. I've already made 2 videos sharing my critiques on how both female and male characters are written lately, especially in romantasy. But just to touch on it here, there's a trend where MMCs are brooding, tall, muscular, sometimes tattooed, extremely attractive, and they just do nothing but smirk throughout most of the story. Meanwhile, the FMC is this badass, petite character who's not like other girls, is super attracted to the MMC and hates him at the same time, and often, unfortunately, comes off as a pick-me. Honestly, I think it's time for more diversity in characters and more interesting, nuanced storytelling through such characters. The next trend kind of has to do with this one, and it's every romantasy book being an enemies to lovers. There was a time when I adored enemies to lovers, but now every romantasy is an enemies to lovers, which makes them all feel so similar. They have the same kinds of MMCs and FMCs, as I was saying. Same banters, fights, swords, you name it. Romantasy now has become almost synonymous with enemies to lovers at this point. Personally, as a reader, and especially as an aspiring author, I feel like there's so much we could explore in the worlds, in the magical romance, and in the fresh dynamics within that genre. We could have so many fun and interesting romantasy stories if we just let go of this overused trope, especially because, and no hate, it hasn't been done well lately. Next one might be a bit controversial, and it's more on the author's side. That is including too much spice in books. Now, everyone can write whatever they want, and I'm not here to hate on that. But I do feel like sometimes authors add a lot of spice to make the romance work, especially when the relationship itself isn't developed enough. When that happens, the romance ends up relying mostly on physical attraction instead of a believable emotional connection. I can tell you how many times I've read MMC chapters where it was just that character, that male character, thinking about how attractive the FMC is and not really praising her for anything else. And in my opinion, that's not painting a full picture of love. I mean, Jane Austen proves a story doesn't need spice to be compelling. If a story can't make the romance work without it, then maybe the romance itself needs to be redeveloped. Tension and attraction are great, but spice shouldn't carry the entire relationship. The next trend we need to leave behind is judging people based on how much they read. That goes both ways, whether someone reads hundreds of books a year or just a few. There's this pressure now to overconsume. Book hauls, massive TBRs, and the idea that reading more automatically makes you a better reader. But honestly, we shouldn't get caught up in that. Reading should be enjoyable, and you should read however much or however little you want. And now, in this culture, there is that competitiveness that comes comes with reading, oddly enough. Some people get judged for reading too much and get accused of not really reading properly. Others get told they're not real readers because they don't hit these huge numbers every year. That judgment is completely unnecessary in my opinion. You're a reader either way, and you should enjoy reading however you like it. And last but definitely not least, the final trend we need to leave behind in 2025 that I want to talk about in this video is authors rushing to publish new books. With the rise of BookTok and the publishing industry booming, there's more demand and competition than ever for new releases. But that rush can impact the quality of the books. Now I imagine it's exhausting for authors themselves too. In my opinion, there's something really special about that waiting period between releases. As a reader, you know the author is taking their time to craft something amazing. And that anticipation makes it even more exciting. And when the book finally comes out, because it's a better quality, because it wasn't rushed to come out, it meets expectations or even exceeds them. Rushing can take away that magic, and I think we'd all benefit from leaving this trend behind. Now for the bonus trend, I wanted to include something that speaks more to the reading community as a whole, and that is the trend of judging other people for what they read, or in other words, mocking BookTok. Reading has surged over the past years thanks to BookTok. It's had so many benefits for authors and the publishing industry. And yet, with the rise of BookTok, we've also seen an increase in hate toward that space. And a lot of that, in my opinion, comes from misogyny. Because as we all know, women make up the majority of BookTok. Unfortunately, that has led to more judgment within the community itself, where people critique others for their taste, their opinions on books, or what they choose to read. Now, discussing books critically is amazing when it's respectful and nuanced, but judgment and mocking take the fun out of it. Everyone should be able to enjoy what they like, as long as it's not causing any harm. And also, we can absolutely discuss BookTok, its pros and cons. I myself would love to make videos about it in the future. But of course, we can do that and open such conversations without crossing the line into hating or into negativity. So there you have it. The book trends I feel like we need to leave behind in 2025. Of course, these are just my opinions, so I'd love to know yours. What trends do you think we should move on from in the upcoming year? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss future videos, and check out the podcast version of Once Upon a Ramble on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. And if you want to connect more, you can follow me on my Instagram and my TikTok, linked in the description below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate it so much. And yeah, we'll meet again next week. Mwah! Bye!